Hello, lovely people. I'm Sinead, and welcome to another Craft and Chat. I just want to say here at the very beginning that we've had some rough times, and I want you to know this is a safe space as far as I can keep it a safe space. If that is something important for you to know, I know it's important for me. So this last Monday, I had one of those Mondays that I've heard people talk about but never experienced. I gotta say, I've been very fortunate. I have not had that, oh my gosh, it's Monday and everything's going wrong type of thing very often in my life at all. But this last Monday was that kind of Monday where everything was going wrong, included pottery shard stabbings and burns from boiling water, and I thought, oh my goodness, I should just crawl back under a rock or something because this day is not good. And then I pulled myself together and I said, I have work to do and I'm going to do that work, and it involves power tools and it will not go wrong. And anybody who's experienced a string of horrible things going on and knowing that if you go over and you handle that dangerous thing, and it's not that dangerous, but on a day when things are going wrong, it's probably not a good choice. Because I did this is not going to go wrong, I'm going to be fine. It did. It was fine. I was great. Nothing went wrong. Nothing horrible happened. And I am so proud of that, that I could actually stop and say, that's enough with the klutzy accident issues. I don't have time for that. I need to change that. And I'm sure that for me, a lot of that is focusing on what I'm actually doing, and that I have a tendency to think about other things while I'm working, and that is a distraction in of itself, and that's why things go wrong. So focus was the answer. It fixed it. My day was much better after that. I also want to report that there has been noticeable improvement in my skin issues. I have this texture that started when I was living in the mold with a lot of the heavy mold, and I thought it was just part of getting older because my grandmother and my great grandmother had that same skin texture thing go on where I don't even know how to describe it. It's not a skin tag, but it's kind of like a mole but without the color. Anyway, I had a lot of it, and I think a lot of it is why I think that problem is part of the whole thing. Anyway, so I have noticed a drastic improvement in that. So I am hopeful that at some point my scalp is going to get happy enough that I'll be able to grow hair again. But I will say that this being bald has its advantages, and I'm not against it. I like my hair, and I would like to have the choice. I don't like not having choices. So I want a choice, and my health is going in the right direction at this point, despite the sniffles. I'm going in the right direction. Something I'm doing is right, and I'm glad to report that that's good. Got to have some good news, right? So that's my good news. I also was able to come up with a better idea and focus on the directions I wanted to do the channels, or the channel, not channels, there's not multiple. With Fridays being, has been the cardboard dollhouse, and that is going to morph into dolls and dollhouses so that I can continue to work on various different dollhouse elements, but not be confined to that it won't just be cardboard, it can be any dollhouse element, and that I can also work those dolls into that Friday episode. And craft and chat, well, craft and chat is going to be those crafts that I don't necessarily want to do, need to do, but don't necessarily want to do. I will occasionally do things I want to do, but a lot of it's going to be motivation to make the things happen. I know we all have them on our list. Those things that involve crafting up something that you didn't necessarily feel was that rewarding. So, you may have heard me in other videos say that one of the things I struggle with is making my own clothes. I am not motivated. I struggle a lot with that. So I'm going to try and work some of that in. I don't want to do whole processes, but I'm going to try and work some of that in so that it happens. Because my t-shirt here, I'm wearing it wrong side out so that it doesn't irritate my skin, which kind of works. And this, I'm going to admit, is my favorite shirt, in spite of the fact that it doesn't always lay right. I look in there and I go, oh, it's folded funny. It's admittedly my favorite shirt, maybe because I made it completely and totally by hand and I didn't use the sewing machine. Maybe because it fits in a way that I like better. Maybe because I like the ponies on it. I don't know. But it is wearing out. I don't know if you can see it, but I had to patch. Okay. I had to patch a hole. It was an actual hole and I had to patch it on both sides. It's got, so it wouldn't get caught in it and tear it some more. And I sewed my pocket closed because that's how the tear happened. Don't go away my pocket. So I'm hoping to work some of that into there. Today I have a weird project. I was trying to make shelves for plants that hangs in front of the window. And there are some shelving units out there that I could have used. I didn't like the price on them. I didn't like the way that their dimensions. And I was like, why don't I just take some shelves and see what I can do? And so I had this metal shelving unit and I have taken, what is it called? Macrame cord. And I spent this weekend braiding macrame cord because I don't do macrame. And you have to do something to it to make it stronger. Because just using the cords bunched doesn't work quite as well. Anyway, and I put it together and I forgot the shelf stops, which means tying knots in it. So I'm going to show you, or try to show you what's going on there, and then take it apart and put it back together with the knots in, and take you along on that as much as I can. Here's our project. I've taken and made 2 ropes that went, okay, through these shelves. There are 3 of them. And the bottom has this cardboard tube, which will help with the wear. And so I don't need any stops there, but I am going to have to put a knot under this shelf and under the top shelf. The middle shelf and the top shelf have to have some kind of knots to hold them in adjustment. And I have to keep it even. So I'm going to stop the camera and take it all apart and start again showing you putting the knot, showing the knots going in, I think. Because I don't think you need to go through the whole process, because that's a lot of pulling like that and frustrations. All right, the rope is all out, and I actually added this knot. The other side had it, but I didn't remember to do it when I was braiding this side. I'd like to share a little hint or recommendation when doing something this long, is that you want to, let's see, braid standing, holding this end, holding the end, that's furthest. So I took this and I stuck it on a coat rack. And then I got as far from as I could and I started braiding. So of course the braid did not look like this. It was really loose. And the closer the braid got to me, the tighter it got. And so I ended up with basically something like this at the end. Then I went back up to this end and started braiding, and instead tightening it up basically. So instead of having these ends I kept having to pull free, I just shake it every so often, and the tangle that was happening, the reverse braid that happens behind where you're braiding or plaiting, if that's how you refer to it, um, would the reverse part would fall out because it was moving the braid that I'd done here in a this was my control tangle. It just moved the whole braid up so that once I got to the where what I had braided at this end had disappeared into the upper part of the braid, I could go back to those tails and braid some more, and it made it easier to get all the way to the end without having to constantly pull out the long sections of braid that inevitably get tangled in the reverse that's happening um, behind where you're working. Anybody who's braided hair is familiar with that tangle if you've braided long hair, or if you've ever braided, a rope like this, then you're familiar with that tangle. And that is how I dealt with it, was by braiding from the ends and not worrying about how tight or loose it was, and using that to create the braids up at the beginning without having a tangle. And yeah, it was a little bit of shake it, come down, shake it to get the reverse out. Okay, so I was doing math. I forgot that I was doing math, so I got to go back and do some more math. Okay, we're going to hope that this math I just did works. I don't know that I allowed enough for the knots, and that might be a problem. Okay, and also I'm realizing I have to I did this last time by using the wire to pull it through like a needle threader, and I don't want to do that this time because it didn't work all that great. It was a little hard to handle. That was so much nicer. Okay, that's good. But I'm also sitting here going, I got to start with the top shelf. This is the top shelf. And that I've got to go down in a U doing this. So I hope my measurement thing really works. Otherwise, I'm going to be quite frustrated. Okay, that's supposedly the length. Hey, look at that. That's a better measurement. Make sure that that's not actually. Okay. Well, I'm glad I've got all these measuring devices handy, because yeah, that was not the measurement I thought it was. I'm going to pull it back out. Give it a stretch there. That's how we're going to do this. And then pull all the length through. And double check. That looks good to me. Also, all of a sudden there was a panic of, did I just put that together upside down? I have a story to tell about my pliers. These pliers were a gift from an ex-husband, the father of most of my offspring, because he kept stealing. Shouldn't call it stealing. He kept borrowing my needle nose pliers and not returning them. He'd take them to work, destroy them, and I would not then have needle nose pliers, which I used a lot, to say the least. I used them a lot. Okay. Anyway, so he bought me this, and he got so much harassment over having purchased me a pair of needle nose pliers. I'm clanging around. I don't know if you can hear me over it. For Christmas. It was the best present he ever gave me. Absolutely the best present he ever gave me. And I made fun of the guys who were making fun of him for having given it to me. Which, that's not nice, but... Okay, that's the measurement I had, but this is something I just realized I did not calculate in. So we're going to go further. And I don't feel like I'm doing this right. Oh, yeah. That's another thing you got to figure in, is the whole height. There. Ay, ay, ay. That was exciting. I guess it was a good thing that the whole tripod fell over. I checked the recording because the controls on the video wouldn't respond, and I couldn't stop it from recording. Anyway, I had to close the app, restart everything. But I discovered that somewhere in there, the microphone stopped working, lost its charge, its power, and I just messed up. Of course. Okay. I forgot to put the knot in. So, I'm assuming you can see that, when the tripod fell over, I said, that's it, I'm going to go have lunch. Took the dog out and went and had lunch. So I can't remember exactly because it's been a while since I checked that thing. What I was talking about, I think, was my pliers. And there was a exclamation about, uh-oh, I've done this wrong, because I think at that point I'd forgotten some knots. or I realized that everything was too close together. I don't know. Can't remember. After all, what's it been? An hour? You know. So, yeah, now I'm trying to make sure. I got to stop and pay attention here. Make sure I get this spaced right. The knot. I don't even know if the camera's catching this. I should probably stop and check and make sure. I think I just tightened that up the wrong direction. But there. It's coming together. The measurements were not exact what I thought they should be. It's weird. It's because they're what they were before I adjusted for knots, and I guess the rope just stretches that much. And I end up with it being a lot closer to the measurements I took. You know, maybe the overall length of the rope. That's a good point. I did not stretch the rope as I measured it. And obviously when you do this, you're stretching it to make sure that you're getting the same distance of what it will be when it's got the weight of the plants on it. I am going to stop for a second. It did need to be adjusted so you could see what I was doing. So tying the knots down here at this end. There was more to the story of the... Something's wrong. Oh, that's what's wrong. I'm looking at it going, thought it was the other way up. The story of the pliers. To continue that, because that got cut off. I don't know, you might not care. But I'm going to continue it anyway. These pliers are actually a multi-tool. And so it was even more usable, accessible. I don't know. I had tons of things I used to use it for because I carried it with me. And also when I did steel, I was making sword hilts. I used these pliers to hang onto the pieces while I was grinding, and that was a long time ago. And while there's marks on the pliers, they survived all that abuse. So, still the best gift ever, I think. At least from a spouse. I don't think anyone's ever outdone the useful nature of this, or how much fun I've had with it. As crazy as that sounds, and I did it again. Look at that, no knot. I just like threading it through there, I guess. I don't know. Forgot the knot again. Okay, move that down. And I hope you can see that I finished that side. You know, that side's all done. The measurements were off. I had to go back and adjust. And fiddle with it, and hopefully when I'm done fiddling, well, that didn't come through, it'll work. Okay, now we need to make sure we've got... Ooh, that doesn't look the same from one side to the other. Questions. I have questions. So many questions. Like, that one doesn't look the same either. And I know I did that. I did that with a measurement. With a... That's not what I meant. I checked that using the measurement on here to make sure that they were the same, not that they were... Everybody fall. So we're going to have to shorten this one before we fix the other one. Fortunately, we're at the top. Well, we can hopefully figure out the difference. Just using the grid to get an idea of how close or how far off we are. And now it looks like it's too far down. So you can tell that it's a lot of fiddly messing around with changing it, moving your knots. And I'm going to say that is probably where we're going to end today, is on that note of projects that fiddly. You don't want to do, or you do want to do, you want to get them done, but you don't necessarily want to actually do them? I don't know. How would you define that? How would you just refer to a project like this where you want the end result, but you don't necessarily want to spend the time doing it? You kind of feel like, maybe not. Couldn't somebody else do that for me? That's kind of how I feel. Could somebody else do that for me, please? That's not a real good name for a project, though. Could somebody else do that for me? I don't know. Maybe that is. Maybe that's what the honeydew is all about. I don't have a honey to do, so never have, actually. Honeys didn't do. Just take my tools. I hope you have a wonderful week, a delightful day, and that everything comes up roses for you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.